This video will be about making small holes and tapping them. I had a couple of requests from my viewers that wanted to see how I did, say, number ones and 080s and 090 screw holes and tap them without breaking the taps. And I'm going to show that. These are the small bolts that I use for making models. This is only one drawer full, but we got all the way down to 080s in this one. The 090s I don't have a place for, but this is only up to a number 3, and then down below here I have up to number 5, and this is all some Allen head cap screws, and then I have 6, 8, and 10 in the lower drawers. But mostly what I'm going to show you is the small ones, like a 1, an 080, a 2, and so forth. You can see that I have the taps lined right up here, right on my tapping thing. This is something I built many years ago, and you can buy one, but the one that you buy, you have to sort of modify it a little bit. First, you got to make a knurled nuts, because you turn those down here. You don't even use this crank, because you can't feel it. And when you're doing an 080, you've got to really have good feel. So I'll show you that, and we'll drill some holes in some stock and tap it and show you what I've learned. I'm going to start off with a piece of solid brass, and the first holes I'm going to be blind holes. In other words, they don't go through, and those are probably the most problematic because you're most likely to break a tap by bottoming it out. So first you have to decide what size drill you're going to use. Now let's start out with a number 1 tap, which is fairly easy for me because I've done a lot of them. An 080 and an 090, I have to be really careful. But we're going to start out with a 1. And I used to have 3 taps, now I got 2. I got a bottoming tap and a regular tap. So we go over to the chart here, and you see for a 172, which these are, it says a 54 drill for 75 to 70%, and a 53 drill for 60%. But when you do this, you have to think about, what is this bolt going to do? Is it in shear strength, or is it in tension? In other words, is it a cylinder head bolt that's going to be tried to push off, or is it just holding something on a shear? So if it's holding something on a shear, I would go to probably a number 52 drill, because you don't have to tap quite as much material and you're less likely to break it. And if you go 3 or 4 threads deep, then you're fine. You've got plenty of start. A 54 drill is 55 thousandths. A 53 drill is 49 thousand. A 52 drill is 63. That's almost 7 thousandths difference in the size of the tap, the size of the hole. But the outside of a 172 is 73 thousandths. So you would actually have 10 thousandths engaged in the thread. So that's only 5 thousandths each side. But that's enough on a number 1 bolt. What I'm going to do is drill all 3 of these holes from the 54 to the 52 and show you the difference in the way they tap. Now you notice I clear that drill a lot as I go down through there, because if the drill clogs up and jams, you can wring the drill off in there, and now you've got a broken drill in your part, and that's not fun. So clear the drill often, and probably use some cutting oil. In brass you don't really need it too much, but it does help. This is the 53. Now I'm going to drill the number 52 drill. The tapping machine. Now I have a chuck in here, which is from an old electric drill. Definitely use cutting oil. Now this is the hole that I drilled the 52 drill on. As you can see, I can go down there pretty damn easily. I'm just turning the shaft, that's going right in there. Going right to the bottom. Okay, now, this is the 53 drill. Now I can feel the difference there, but it isn't too bad. Because we're doing brass. We'll do steel after this. And then we'll do cast iron, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Okay, now this is the recommended for 70% thread. It still goes in there pretty easy because it's brass. We're going to do the same thing, the same 3 drills with steel. Okay, now I'm going to show you with a little test here what it takes. That's a 172. I'm going to use a steel bolt. So I'm going to put that in 5 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's only 5 threads, and you see most of it's sticking out. So now I'm going to see if I can pull that out of there and strip the thread. It broke the bolt. Now that is higher than what they said, larger than what they said. They were saying to use a number 54 or 53. I used a 52, and you can see only five threads were in there. That was with the number 52 screw, number 52 drill, and that's in brass, and that wouldn't pull that out of there. So be aware when you do this that use a 70% thread is probably more than you need most of the time in models. Now see, I unscrewed that by hand, and that's the piece that I had left. Now there's no sense of doing the test on the rest of them because all I'll do is break 2 more bolts. So let's try this in steel. Okay, this is cold roll steel, and I'm going to do some prick punch marks on this one so the drill won't wander around. So I'm going to do the same 3 holes with the same drills. 52. I'm definitely going to use cutting oil on this. Now this is the number 53 drill. And this is the number 54 drill. This is a 70% thread this would give me, which is what they recommend for on the chart. Another thing you have to be careful of is drill speed. The smaller the drill, the faster you want to go. And I don't know what the RPMs of this. It only gives me the readout cycles. It gives me the cycles. I'm running 56 cycles because this is a phase converter for a 3-phase motor, and I've got it running 110 volts, and it works really great with this drill press because I can turn the speed up and down. And you need quite a bit of speed for small holes. You see. What you'd probably do if you ran it at this speed is it'd take a long time, and you'd probably break the drill by pushing on it. And like I said, clear the drill often. Okay, now I think we ought to drill one more hole just for the heck of it. We'll go up to a 51 drill. And we'll see how much strength that has in steel. I need one more prick punch mark. This is way over the recommended size for that tap. But just for the heck of it, we'll see how much it takes to pull it out of there, or if it will pull out. Okay, let's tap all those. Same number 1 tap that I used in the brass. And this is a 2 fluke tap. And a 2 fluke tap, what happens is it pushes the chips ahead of the tap, and they end up in the bottom of the hole. And I think that's called a gun tap. I'm not sure, but I like them, especially for doing through holes, because it doesn't clog up with chips. The other type, the 3 flukes, will clog up, and you have to clear them often. You see how easy I can screw that in there? That's a number 51 drill. Absolutely nothing to tap that. Here's the 52. Still, I can turn just the 1/2-inch shaft and no problem. You see, if you take that out, there's very little chips on it because it's pushing chips ahead. And it should go in there fairly easy. You shouldn't have to force it at all. If you do, you're going to break the tap. Let's see when that goes to the bottom. Maybe it's not long enough. I must have drilled the hole too deep. Yeah, I drilled the hole too deep on that. This is the number 3 drill. Yeah, 53 drill. Now I can feel that. It's really cutting. I don't think I could turn it. No, I couldn't turn it with the 1/2-inch shaft. Okay, now here is the 70% thread. And that's the smallest drill you'd ever want to use to get the most thread. But I hardly ever use a 70% thread because it's just not necessary. If you need more thread, you go a little deeper and you got the same strength. I'm only going probably 3/4 of a turn before I back it out and clear it. If you try to force it, you're going to snap that tap right off. Okay. Now, take the same bolt. And I think these are 12L14, so they're not really strong bolts, but I'm not positive. Well, pretty hard to tell how many threads I got in there. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 threads. Now see, that's stripped right out, and you can't see it. I'm not sure if it stripped the bolt or not. I have to take it under a magnifying glass to see, but I think it stripped a little of the bolt. So I'm going to take another bolt. Now that was way over the recommended hole size. Okay, we're going to put that in. It's just starting in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's only in 5 threads, which I normally go a lot more than that, but I just want to see if I can strip it. Nope, it didn't strip it. It pulled off the head of the bolt. So there's no sense of going any further than that. If 5 threads will hold, and that's a number 52 drill, which is not even recommended. It's probably 50% of thread on 5 threads, and you can't pull it out of there. Fine. So remember, when you're doing this, don't ever try to put a 70% thread with an 080, unless you're doing brass or something. You could do that. But in steel, you don't want to do it. So now we'll try cast iron. Okay, this is cast iron. And when you drill a machine cast iron, you don't usually use any cutting oil. So we won't. So this is the largest drill. This is the, what did I say it was, a 52? Yeah, 52. You can see that drilled quite nicely. Then we'll go with the 52 drill. This is the 53. Now, the 53 on the chart says 60% thread. And now the 54 drill. I was just checking the hole size to make sure I didn't mix up the drills, and I didn't. Still using the same tap. As you can see, I can just about screw that in the hole like nothing. Now that's probably about 25% thread, which is way below what they would recommend. But in some cases, you could use that. Now see, this here is the 52 drill, And I would say it's probably a 50% of the thread. I can feel the resistance as I tap it. There's the bottom of the hole. Now this is the 53 drill, which is 60%. Now that's the most I would ever use is 60% thread. And here again, I'm not using any tapping oil because this is cast iron. And this is the 70% thread. Now I can still put that in there fairly easy. And in cast iron, which taps fairly easy, would be no problem. Just want to clear it often, especially if you're using a 3-fluke tap. Okay, there it is. Now we're going to do that same test. I'm going to put a number 1 screw in here, one that isn't stripped. Now see, that's hardly any thread. I can tell you that's going to strip right out. Okay, then this here is a 53 drill. This is going to be the 53 drill. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 threads in there. Now that's quite loose actually. Let's see how much it takes to pull that out. Broke the bolt. So there's no sense testing either one of these other holes. Of course they're going to break the bolt. But on a number 1 bolt, I'm not sure how many threads the nut is. But I don't know if I can count them or not. I'm going to take a nut out of the drawer and see if I can count how many threads the nut is.
Okay. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's already through. There's only 4 threads in the nut. So going 5 threads is more depth. As you can probably see, 5 threads has it sticking through the nut. Normally when you do a tapped hole in a casting or something, you're going more than 5 threads deep. But if you just remember that whatever the nut is supposed to be strong enough to hold it. So if you get 5 threads or 6 good threads, you're fine. You don't have to go in 10 and 12 threads. It's just it's a waste of time. But sometimes you just need the clearance because the bolts are a little longer or something, and that's fine. Now I'm going to show you what I use 080s for. I very seldom use 080s. Sometimes in governors or something I have to use an 080 screw. But I do use them for holding small things in place when they're soft soldered on there. Now these are soft soldered on here, and I powder coat this. So if I put it in the powder coat, it goes up to 400 degrees, which will melt the solder. So if I didn't put a bolt in that, it would just fall off in the powder coating oven. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 080 screws in each one of these and then smooth them off so you don't see them. I won't have to take them out afterwards. It'll just be in there. And I'll just tap them in and just leave them there. supported it. I'm just going to put some prick punch marks in it so the drill won't wander. That won't work. Let's try this. Just eyeball in the center of that round rod. Put a little prick punch mark. Doesn't matter where I put these because they're not going to show. There. So I'm going to use a spotting drill on these just to start them. Make sure they're staying in the middle. Because with a spotting drill, if it starts to wander, I can move it over quite easily just by pushing it while the drill's running. So it's calling for a number 56 drill here. I'm going to go up a little higher to a number 55. That's a little bit bigger in diameter. You've got 56 is 65. I mean, 56 is 46 thousandths, and the 55 is 52 thousandths. So it's 4 thousandths. Let's see, 50, 56, 4, 5, 6 thousandths bigger. I want to make sure this is nice and solid, because if it isn't, if it slides sideways, I can break that drill very easily. So that's a little better. Okay, make sure I got the right drill, number 55. You notice I left it right in the vise and just transferred it over to here. So even if those holes went in crooked, they're going to go in the same way as I drilled them. And that's what I want. Because this is slanting a little bit that way. So I don't want to take it out of the vise. So I'm going to take an 080 tap. And you don't ever want to take an 080 tap and put it in something like this and try to tap it in, because you'll break it every time practically, unless you're awful steady. I have never been able to successfully do it. Another thing you can do is a trick. You can put the tap in the drill press and turn the chuck by hand, and you can tap it that way. But this one has so much drag on it because of the motor and the belt that I don't use that. You want to make sure that that's going in there dead straight with the hole that we had drilled. And this should go in quite easy because that's an oversized hole. You want to make sure everything's solid too, so this doesn't slide sideways, because it'll snap that tap off of there every time. Okay, that's plenty deep. All I have to do is get through that piece of brass and into the steel a little bit, and that's going to hold it, because that's only half round brass. Now see how easy I can put that in there? It's because of the hole size. If I drilled the recommended hole size, it would be a little tighter, and you'd be more likely to break the tap. If you feel any drag at all, take it out, clean the tap off, and go back in a little more. That's plenty deep. I probably should count the threads here and see how deep it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's plenty deep. So I'm going to take a couple of 080 screws in brass and just screw them in there finger tight, cut them off, and file them flush. Now I'll just run those in to the bottom with the screwdriver, and once I get them bottomed out, I'll cut them off with a pair of pliers and file them. To make sure I don't hit the cameraman here with these bolts. There's the stub sticking out. What I'll do is just file those off. That's pretty much it. That's it. So one thing you want to keep in mind when you're drilling and tapping holes is how much is that bolt going to hold, and which way is it holding. And if it's through this way and it's shear strength, the threads don't have to be in there a lot. There's no strain on the threads when it's in shear strength because you're trying to pull it this way. But if you put that in there and it's trying to pull it this way, this tension, then the threads have to be fairly good. But always keep in mind what you're doing and how much strain is going to be on the threads themselves, not just on the bolt. Okay, I have all these charts here, and this one is for drills, approximate drill size. Now, you notice that a 75% thread is the most they show. I hardly ever use that in the model. I might use a 70% at sometimes. Most of the time I try to use 60% or less. You can go one drill bigger in most cases and it'll hold fine. Another thing you can keep in mind is you have the outside diameter of the thread. Now see, a 540 is an 1/8 inch OD, a 440 is 112 thousandths, and this gives you all those sizes, so you know what size of steel you want when you're making the bolt itself, or any kind of a threaded implement that screws a nut or something screws onto it. So collecting these charts is a good thing to have, and if you have good ones, these are very old. I'm sure these are 50 years old at least, and you can see they've gone through hell being in my shop, but I use them all the time, and I've cut them down. They were somewhat bigger and very handy. You can get most of this stuff off the internet now, but this is a very important one: the drill size for your taps. I had a couple of my subscribers asked me to show a complete engine build, and we've thought about it, and we're probably at the end of most of the simple things that I can do. So we thought maybe we would do it. And the two engines that I have selected would be either the 6-cycle oddball, which I have built 3 times, or this mill engine, which I've built a couple of times. The difference is there's plenty of plans out there for the 6-cycle oddball. For this mill engine, there is no plans because I just built it myself. But it's very easy to build a small steam engine, and just from the video, a person could probably learn enough to build their own design. But so I'd like a little input on, would you rather see a gas engine or a steam engine in this video series that would show the whole build? In the comments area, just give me an idea of whether if you'd rather see a gas engine or a steam engine, and we'll take it from there. Just remember, when you're using those small taps, don't try to use a tap handle if you can get away with it. Put it in the tapping machine and have some control over the tap. Because if you just turn it sideways a little bit, that tap is so delicate it'll break right off. So thank you for watching, and if you liked what you saw, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much.